So your company has developed a number of chatbots, some of which have been for the financial services industry. In what other industries do you think AI has a key role to play?
Yeah, so we've specialised in providing virtual assistants for financial services companies, in particular insurance and banking as our core area of expertise. But beyond this, the sectors that we know will be automated, and we look at the analysts and what they predict. So at the moment, it will be 40% of jobs in financial services, retail, hospitality, tourism, and particularly then insurance and banking. 40% of those jobs automated by 2026. The jobs that are automated of those 40%, 90% of those jobs will be the jobs of women and minority groups. So along with this topic of AI comes a huge responsibility to start thinking about what are the ethics, what are the human rights frameworks, and how are we not going to just code in diversity problems, even though we know it's particularly difficult to get a large number of women in these engineering roles. It's not impossible. But beyond that, if the women engineers are not available, have other people from diverse genders and diverse, from minority groups to be representative on the teams that are responsible for AI development.
The government's currently consulting on an AI framework about ethics in AI in relation to the paper that's being consulted on, in relation to the 8 different principles that they're focused on. Do you think those are the key principles, Catriona, or do you think there are some areas that might be missing?
Ethics and human rights in AI is a really big topic now, and we're just seeing the Australian industry starting to sit up and pay attention to it. The US, I'd say, is probably a year or so ahead of us on this, and the government has just put $29 million into being able to develop an ethics framework. And in that ethics framework are really sensible things such as fairness, transparency, privacy, contestability, diversity, removing bias from code, etc. So one of the things that I'm challenged about is the sector is moving so fast that, and right now, $89 billion worth of investment going into AI companies this year alone. The technology moves far faster than the law or the regulations.
Another interesting topic that you've touched on in the work that you've done is in relation to the impact of AI on the future of work. Can you take us through what that might look like, in terms of financial services impacts, but also more broadly across the industry?
Yeah, so we're seeing the coming of what we call the Harva worker. So this would be where in a typical organisational chart, you might have human workers, you might have Harma or Harva workers, who is a human employee that works with a virtual assistant or a machine assistant. And then you'll have digital labour who adjusts the robots themselves. And so what we're seeing now is, again, another question that I'm not sure Australian business is prepared for, is how are we training or preparing employees to be going into a work environment where their buddy or their teammate is a robot, is a machine.
And so looking forward to, say, 10 years, what do you think are the key implications?
50% of it we predict will go very well, and AI will come and it will automate a lot of day-to-day functions that humans don't really need to be doing. It'll free up time for us to be more human. If we race forward to 2029, I do see it will be absolutely commonplace. Autonomous vehicles will be the normal. Probably autonomous weapons will be the norm. Again, a very negative and dark side of AI. But having jobs where a lot of the work is done by robots and machines will also be the norm. And what we'll see is a displacement is predicted to be, in the next 2 years, of 1.8 million jobs removed from the workforce because of the coming of AI, but the creation of 2.3 million jobs in the next 2 years because of the coming of AI. Now, the real challenge there is it's not necessarily those workers in the 1.8 million who will get the jobs of the 2.3 million. These will be the creations of new jobs like brain trainers, brain auditors, data journalists who will write up the outcomes of the back of the robots, etc. So my real concern is, as we think about the future of work, how are we gearing up our organisations and the staff in it who are likely to be displaced?
Flamingo is listed on the ASX. Do you think there is some work to be done by the ASX or by other stock exchanges around the world so that they are better able to facilitate companies such as yours to be out there in front of shareholders, in front of potential investors. Do you think there's anything from a platform perspective that could be done to help AI-based companies?
Yeah, this is such a great question. So we were one of the very first AI companies to list on the Australian Stock Exchange, and I had a female chair at the time we listed, Kathy Reid, and we were the second only women-led business to ever have listed on the Australian Stock Exchange. It is a difficult place to be with regard to being an early stage young company, but the great thing for us in being on the ASX is that we've been able to provide the opportunity for investors beyond those who are in venture capitalists and PE firms who are financing young companies, that we can make available our stock for average Australians who are not perhaps investment funds to invest in. So I think that's great, and we've been very proud to do that. That being said, it's particularly difficult. The ASX and investors in ASX listed companies are really looking for strong revenue growth, and in an early stage company that can often be hard because we're still figuring out the market is still emerging, we're still testing and learning. So so far so good.